One of the questions I get asked the most from business owners, from leaders and professionals is how do I become a better communicator like you, Christina? How do I become more confident in delivering my leadership, my expertise, and what I know? My name is Christina Crowley-Arklie. I'm a business coach, communication strategist, and entrepreneur who helps other highly ambitious entrepreneurs build burnout-free businesses through their leadership and their communication. Now, it always surprises me at how many incredible leaders and professionals and business owners I have conversations with that it always comes back somehow to imposter syndrome or communication or how they're selling or telling their message. And they always are unsure of how they're communicating. And they know that this is an area of weakness or an area that they got to get better at. And I'm always quick to tell them, listen, it is okay to feel like you're, imposter syndrome or feel like it's communication or how you communicate or public speak is an area of improvement for you, but don't be overwhelmed by needing to get better at it. You will get better at it if you put into practice the 5 habits that I share them with them. Now, these 5 habits are here for you to work on, not all together, one at a time, based on what you feel you need to take from this video. Now, the first habit I'm going to share with you about where to become a better communicator is watch yourself. It's just practicing. You'd be surprised how many of those leaders and business owners, when I suggest this to them, they're like, oh, I've never thought of that. I've never thought about recording myself on camera and then watching it back. This is something I used to do early in my career when I wanted to do better public speaking and become a keynote speaker, was I would record myself speaking, getting ready for presentations so I could start seeing where was I smiling, where was I I thought I was smiling, but I was actually very astute in my body language, my facial expressions. And it really did help me prepare and become better at speaking. And then eventually I got to the point where I was recording myself presenting so I could see where and what I looked like when I was practicing, and then what the delivery looked like so I could do some comparison and see, okay, yeah, I did actually put into practice what I said I was going to do there, or oh wow, I was actually a lot more stiff and formal than I realized I wanted to be in being more casual and smiling and being a lot more easygoing and relaxed. So I absolutely recommend watching yourself by recording yourself, talk to yourself in a mirror, and I think it's a really good exercise to also write down what are the things, the attributes about other speakers that you love, whether it's, again, keynote speakers, guest speakers, speakers that you find on YouTube, or even other leaders and professionals, business owners that you see on Instagram and social media. What is it about the way that they communicate and speak and talk that you love? And then start putting into practice some of those attributes. The other suggestion here, the other way that I'd say put into practice more is when you give a presentation or talk in a meeting, ask for feedback at the end and go to your friends or the people that you trust, your confidence, and your colleagues, and say to them, what would you change if you could give me some really constructive feedback? So then you could put into practice more and more the feedback, the genuine feedback that other people are giving you. Now, the second habit is speak with structure. And this is where framework really helps come in here. Our brains are wired to think in structure. And if we don't, that's typically where we see ourselves really start spiraling, when we don't have a framework around what it is we're going to say, how we're going to say it, and what the delivery, the outcome is. That's when our brains really start, again, thinking about what story should I tell next? And then we start adding more filler words, and then it becomes way more convoluted. So when you think about frameworks when you're talking, think about how can you tell your message in 3 points? Where can you think about beginning, middle, and end? Where are you talking or telling a story in problem solving, solution, outcome? This way it helps you organize your thoughts, and so then even when you're in a high pressure situations or moments, this is where it helps you think, okay, back to Christina, what was my main point? What am I trying to tell or sell here? How do I want this to land? What's the outcome I'm trying to reach? And it will always help our brain get back to that structure that we're looking for, because structure ultimately creates clarity. Now, the third habit is speak and listen with intention. And this one's a little bit harder because you definitely have to practice this one a little bit more. But when I'm thinking about speaking, it's really about delivering your words and your message in a way that makes it seem like it was very intentional. And this is where delivering your words and how you deliver it, saying it very crisply, enunciating your words, saying your T's very, again, in a way, your T's and your S's in a way that is very crisp, is what allows you to make it sound like your words really adds authority to what you're saying. And there's also something that is very typical, especially for women, as known as upspeak, where at the end of our sentences, we typically are known to add what is also known as uptalk. It's actually formally or technically known as high rising terminal. And what I highly recommend you practice on, and this is a big one, especially for women business owners and professionals and leaders, is make sure you end your sentences with that down talk, with that intention that you end your sentences so it feels like there's that period and that pause to then begin your next sentence. That's a big one. Ultimately, I always suggest this when I'm asking my coaching clients and people I work with in how they communicate, is remember, communication always comes back to actually not what you want to say, it's what your audience needs and wants to hear. And so you need to make sure that you're always listening to understand and not communicating to reply. And this is where we often get hung up. We're always thinking about, what do I want to say next? What should be my next point? That person's wrong. I want to get my point in. And you want to be able to lead with intention here, where you're actually genuinely taking in their message and thinking about what they're saying so you can accurately respond with genuine intention. So make sure, we're going to address that with the fifth habit, but make sure that you speak and listen with intention. Now, the fourth habit is about pausing and silence. You need to become strategically comfortable with the pause when you're communicating and with the cricket of silence. Now, this one is probably will make people the most uncomfortable after watching or listening to yourself or recording yourself. A lot of people cannot pause strategically, and silence makes them feel really uncomfortable. And I had to work on this one myself too. But the more pause you add, the more authority it adds to what you have to say. And it also makes it so there's less filler words when you are speaking, because you are strategically deciding to pause, not adding ums, and not just adding words to kind of ramble on and convolute your message. Ideally, if you can pause at the end of something really dramatic, at the climax of something, when you're about to really deliver the punch in a message, the better. And when you're able to add that silence right at that moment where they need to hear it, then chances are they're going to remember your message after it. So that's where really being able to be comfortable and get comfortable with the pause and with adding in silence is going to make you a better communicator. Now, the fifth and final habit here is match your audience's energy. And this comes back to the idea that your audience is the most important piece when you're communicating. They are more important than you are. When you understand the goal of communicating is this, that you want to make your audience feel seen, heard, and understood, and you want to validate their experience, you do this by matching their energy. And so you want to take in, when you're listening to someone, if they start the conversation out, you want to really read their body language. You want to see if they're smiling, if they're positive, if they're happy, if they're upbeat, what they're talking about. And then you want to mirror that energy back to them. And what that does is it makes them feel like you're validating their experience by being a mirror to their energy. And it's also a good reminder too, that the way that you're talking, watch the other person and use them as your mirror. That if they are responding to your message not in the way that you're intending, then that means that you're not communicating like you'd hope. So it's almost like using your recordings and thinking about recording yourself and using your audience as the mirror to say, okay, yeah, that is not how I was intending to communicate, simply by how that person is responding to you. All of these 5 habits come back to 3 things, which is awareness about yourself, intention of how you're communicating, and clarity in how you're communicating out to people. So that's where this is so important. What my challenge to you is this. Do not try to implement all 5 of these habits. Only pick one. Either record yourself, add structure and framework, speak with purpose, pause and use silence more intentionally, or match your audience's energy. Choose one of these and practice and get really good at one of these each as you begin to stack and get better at all of these. And eventually you will become a very effective communicator and leader if you're able to nail all 5 of these communications habits. Now, I want to ask you to end this video, which habit of these do you need to strengthen most? Drop it in the comments. And really, if you want more tools on how to communicate your leadership, communicate and sell your business, and become an expert in your field and be seen as a thought leader and authority figure in your sector or field, then subscribe to my channel because there's a lot of things that we're going to go over that will help you become a more effective leader and communicator in everything you're doing. Because ultimately, when you master communication, you don't just sound better, you lead better, and others will think you do too.